Hey, what's going on? In today's episode, I'm going to be putting a radiator into the 40, so come check it out. I've been dreading this project for a long time because it's the definition of having to put 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag because there is zero room in the front of the engine compartment to mount a radiator. Plus, I need to eventually mount an intercooler in front of the radiator and a set of electric fans behind the radiator, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get anything in the front of this truck. But when I built the frame and I set the motor in place, I ended up moving the motor back as far as I could possibly move it so that I would have room in the future to mount this radiator, because otherwise my only option was to put the radiator behind the cab, which I really wasn't looking forward to doing. So stay tuned and see if I can get this done. Okay, the first thing I need to do is remove the grill from the truck. Okay, there it is. Here's the grill assembly. It's a little rough. I will eventually clean it up and get it in epoxy with the rest of the truck. But for now, I need to remove this lower portion, which I think was added at some point in time in its life. Okay, here's what the back side of the grill looks like. The bottom of that's pretty rough, and I need to clearance the inside to fit the radiator, so I'll do that in a little bit. And here's what that piece looks like. Now that it's been removed, I can just throw that in the garbage. Okay, here's the radiator that we're working with. It's an aluminum dual 1-inch row core, and according to my calculations, it should barely fit inside this grill. Okay, here's the first test fit. You can see it's pretty tight, so now it's time to make an upper mounting bracket. Okay, as usual, I start with a piece of poster board. You can see I want something that's going to fit right about in here, and then I transfer this to a piece of aluminum. Okay, here we go with another test fit. Projects like these always consist of installing and uninstalling the same part over and over again till you reach the desired location. So this is what the upper mount's going to look like. Eventually I'll put some rubber grommets in between the two pieces of metal, but for now I need to move on to the next part. Alright, so in order for this radiator to fit in here, I need to do some modifications to this lower cross member that the grill shell sits on. Okay, this first notch in the cross member is going to be for some clearance for the lower radiator hose on the radiator, and I'm going to weld this piece of pipe in here to add some strength back into the cross member. Alright, the other hole in that cross member, I'm going to run a piece of 3-inch tube through it for the intercooler in the future. And since I don't have the ability to bend a piece of tube this thick, I'm going to create a bend by using a couple of pie cuts that I'm going to weld together. Okay, the reason I'm running that tube through the cross member is because if I ran it underneath the cross member, it would interfere with the suspension under full compression. Plus, this will look a lot cleaner this way. So now I just got to weld this into place. Okay, just like that lower cross member, I got to modify the grill shell support to clear the lower radiator hose as well as that intercooler pipe that I just welded into the cross member. There should be plenty of clearance for the lower radiator hose as well as clearance for that intercooler pipe. So the next thing I need to do is build a lower mounting bracket for the radiator. Since the lower mount is going to support most of the weight of this radiator, I'm using a piece of 1/4 inch plate aluminum, which I will weld to the base of the radiator. Okay, here's everything reinstalled again. Now it's time to make the corresponding mount for the cross member, and for that I'm starting with a piece of poster board. Alright, now that that's all cut out, I'm going to head over to my press brake, and by press brake, I mean my vise and a 3-pound sledgehammer so I can put some bends in this thing. Alright, I drilled a couple holes in the bracket, and those are going to hold these rubber grommets, which will support the radiator. Now I just got to weld this thing into place. Alright, here's the finished product. You can see the lower radiator mount, the intercooler hose, as well as some clearance for the lower radiator hose. And up top I also went ahead and put some rubber grommets underneath the bracket for the top of the radiator. Alright, so I managed to somehow get that radiator in there, which means that's going to be it for this one. In the next episode, I'm going to be building an intercooler, which I've never done before, so be sure to stay tuned and watch for that video, and I'll see you next time.